Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we're getting into a comparison video between these two Lego sets. They are both holiday camper vans. On the left you have set 60454, which is the new one for 2025 with 385 pieces. And then on the right you have set 60283, which has 190 pieces and was a set from, I want to say 2023 or 2022. I'm not exactly sure, but it was the previous van released before the one on the left. So it was the previous latest incarnation until this one just dropped on January 1st of 2025, which is just about around a week ago. So in this video, we're doing a comparison. And I want to definitely express comparison versus, even though in the title of the video, it's going to say versus. But this is really, it's not really like a head to head in terms of like, is one better than the other? Because the camper van on the right is $20. The older one was $20, or at least at its current price right now. I'm going to have a link in the description for both of these vehicles. Is $20. I'm not sure what the original retail price was. And the holiday camper van on the left is $30. And it has double the pieces. So it's really not an exact apples for apples like versus. So that's why it's just simply a comparison. So I just want to get that out of the way. I don't think that one set is necessarily better than the other. It's just difference in evolution in the Lego, theme of things. So what we're going to do is just kind of break down like certain aspects of the comparison. I'm not going to describe what those things are going to be straight up, but as I go through it, you're going to see the points that I'm going to make reference to. Okay, so with the boxes out of the way, one of the first things I want to get out of the way before we get into comparing each actual set is the extras. Now, and there's a couple of things in the inside of this camper van. There's a couple of things in the inside of that camper van as well. Not many inside this one as far as like things like little attachment pieces, foods and this and that, whatever the case is. This one already has its base setup. So these are really just the extras. And I just want to point out that when it comes to the extras, though I'm a fan of this piece and this extras, this has a lot more extras. These extras are, for the most part, useless. And I'm not trying to say it in a bad way, but just in the sense like you can't really do anything with these extra pieces here. Now, this one has fewer extra pieces, but these pieces are actually pretty useful. One, you get another egg print, which is great. You get an extra donut print, which is also great. You get a extra, I don't know if that's considered a strawberry donut because it's strawberry on top, or a cookie, but you get an extra pastry. This piece is very valuable to me. That is a can top, because it already has one inside the set. And even though it doesn't come with a container for you to, attach it to, you could essentially attach it to something like this and make like a little mini canister of something. Maybe it's a canister, a can of some kind of food or something like that. So you could do that. But essentially, that extra top, you could, if you have any other cylinder pieces around, whatever the color is, if it's black, attach that to it, and it's a can of whatever that is. Maybe it's a power drink. I've attached that type of top to a brown cylinder, and in my mind, it's like a coffee drink. So the fact that it comes with two of these total, but one of them is attached to a clear piece, which you're going to see later, which is to indicate water. The fact that you get an extra one of these pieces makes it a valuable piece, in my opinion. So you get a few extras that really have value, even though, it's not as many pieces as these, which these might be great for some of the other things you might do outside of this set, just having extra pieces laying around. But as far as for this set, none of these really do anything for the set as far as extras. So I just want to get that out of the way. And now I'm going to move the extras to the side, and we're going to jump into I'm not going to go over the minifigures because you see them here. You can look at it. I have each individual review of these sets already posted up. So we're not going to go into details like that, but they both come with the same amount of adults. There's nothing wrong with that. Same babies, nothing wrong with that either. The base stuff that they come with as far as extra accessories, this one comes with the camera. There's a bottle inside there already. So they both have the baby bottle. They both have a croissant. This one has the campfire outside, but this is not a feature that goes inside. This one has the little stove kind of like propane setup with the egg for the outside. There's no space to hold it on the inside. So in a sense, that's kind of negative. You could throw it on the inside, but it's just kind of sitting around in maybe one of the seats. So that's the case with that. One thing I really do want to say, and I'm going to add more to this or expand on it later on, but this camper set is a lot more, the older one is a lot more in the realm of having food stuff. We just seen the extras comes with like, you know, 5 different things to accommodate for food. 2 donuts, 1 egg set, and a can top that, like I said, you could attach to, you know, the small, little whatever, and say that's a little mini drink. Maybe that's a chubby, you know, those little drinks that are normally they're bottles, but in this case you can say it's a canned version of a chubby. So yeah, I tried to attach it to I thought there was a clear piece, but this is actually a flat piece. But if you had a clear one, you could attach it to a clear one. It would be like a small bit of water maybe, or whatever the case is. But anyway, you guys get the point. So so in the way of food, this one has a lot more. So like I said, this one also has the guitar. So they're a little bit different, but it's cool. This one, you're kind of more doing your cooking. At least this one has stuff to cook with as far as a cooking setup, which is great but this one's cooking setup is actually attached into it. We're going to see those differences. The only problem that sucks with that is they don't have food. But I'm going to show you how, if you had extras of this setup, how you could apply it to that. But nonetheless, so this is the setup that it, you know, the exterior stuff or features that it comes with. And we're going to move this also to the side now. And we're going to move this one also to the side. Now, coming into both van setups. Now, one thing I want to make note is this does not have any extra storage. And this one actually does. Now, it's not advertised in that way, but this piece comes up and you've got nothing but space in there. And as far as I'm concerned, that is storage. I don't know if that's their intention, but I'm going to view it that way. And with that, all the extras can slide in there and you can hold them. Now you can't hold the stuff that's going to be outside, like the little propane tank doesn't really fit in here. The pan can, the extra egg can, you could break most of it down, but the propane tank is a little too, I think it's a little too tall. Maybe, let me see. Let's see if I take it off. Is it the right height to where if you plot it down on a peg? Yeah, so if you plot it down like that, you can. And in that case, you can then break everything down and store it all in there. So everything can be stored. That's pretty cool. So that is a huge plus on this set that I don't think a lot of people really thought about, because you just kind of see it there. It's closed off. It doesn't have the easy stud removal. So people probably don't even think of it in that way of, okay, that's something that I would or could remove. But nonetheless, you can and use it for that purpose. This one right here has the sunroof, a little antenna on the top. So that's a nice vibe, but it's more for the aesthetics, and it doesn't have a usable top for any kind of, you know, benefits to it, no storage or anything like that. This one is where they have the bed. So it's a good space saver, especially considering that this is 6 studs wide all the way through. And this one is 6 studs wide here and then becomes 8 studs later. So nothing wrong with it. In the RV world, you have RVs that are all types of sizes. Some of them are really big, some of them are a little bit smaller. So there's nothing wrong with that. So I definitely do not knock the idea that, you know, it is what it is. It gives you variation. This one is a lot more airy with the windows. airy, as in not eerie, but air. It has a lot more windows, so you're getting a lot more light in it. You got both windows on both sides. You got the two smaller windows in the back end, and then you also have the back window back there. So there's a lot of light coming in there. Not that we need it for us to see, because we're going to just be able to open up the side panel, but nonetheless, it does have that kind of dynamic of how they would be feeling in the inside. Like I said, I just want to show off that this is the bed situation. Now, the one negative here is this slot fits the baby. This can fit only one of the adults. It can't fit both of them. So it looks nice because it looks like it would be able to fit two adults, but unfortunately it can't. So that's one of the negatives when it comes to that. I mean, you could assume that maybe, you know, one's sleeping while the other one's driving. And obviously you would assume, even though this comes off, you would have to play your imagination to assume that like they climbed in from the top piece here, because some RVs are like that with a little loft. And we're just, you know, going to assume that it's that vibe of being like a loft. We're going to leave that off so that way we can look at the interiors here. Now, on this one, you can see the inside here. You got the one coffee mug. Everything is centered. You got the driving console up there, and then you have the steering wheel. Now, as I mentioned before, this one doesn't have the ability to fit, you know, two minifigures side by side. I thought that there was a simple mod by simply this panel right here, that blue one, is 6 studs long. You could take a 2 stud plate, put it here, take a 1 stud plate, put it here. Unless you had a 3 stud long one, you could do that, but put a stud here. This will be empty, and you will put 2 of those jumper plates going across, so they'd be 3 long. So it'd fit here, 1, 2, 3, and you'd match the same on that side. The same way this one's set up here. You have them go across, and then you'd be able to close the door, because those would be sitting here, and this would be slightly above it, and you'd be able to close the door. And then you'd have 1 stud right here to finish off the length of this plate. The only negative that I realized after the fact of that is that because of this beam here, this is a beam because it goes straight through all the way this entire thing. The problem with that is the height of that would make the people sitting down on it too tall to where it wouldn't even be a problem with the beam, because even if you remove this and those plates are touching this brown top, the beige top right there, that's still too tall to where the individuals would get their hair touched. I think it's just shy of it. They may not. I measured it before, and it may fit, but it may almost not when this top comes over it. So, and there's a little room right here in the middle, but this angles here, these things come down, make it kind of tough. So it may or may not work. But anyway, as is, it fits one minifigure in the front. You see, it's got the little coffee on the side, which is fine. This one expands on that, just really utilizing the space even better. And you see this one has those deep indentations because of this beam. You have that kind of drop area on the sides. This one is not like that, as it utilizes that space a lot better. You've got the jumper plates, so you can sit 2 side by side. You still have that same console piece with the steering wheel, but it's all moved to the left, which is more realistic. You've got the 2 mugs there, simulating the 2 cup holders as opposed to 1. So it's definitely a nice vibe in terms of that. And I'm a fan. A little bit cleaner design for the mirrors. Well, this one's mirrors are a little bit more, they're adjustable, you could say, but they're definitely, you know, obviously you wouldn't have your mirror like that. So they're meant for you to have them in this direction like that. Let's see if I can put them side by side and you can see them pretty well. So yeah, so that's the setup with those. Just taking a look at the front real quick. Also, this one has a license plate and everything is stationary, or this one has a front that is able to open up and you can see the engine. So that is a nice little touch. Now, getting into the interiors, and we'll just get into one at a time rather than try to do a side-by-side. So they're both going to open up like that. Now, what's nice about, well, one thing with this one is people have to come through from the front entrance there. So you come through, you'd have to climb through this little window. That's essentially how you get through on here. So it's not unrealistic. It's not practical. It's not what you would think most people would do, but they do give a wide enough open space that is what you would assume it's used for, because otherwise you don't need it to be that wide and open. And you're going to see on the other one, that space is not that wide open because there are things blocking in the way, but you have a different way of getting into the back. This one has the 2 chairs here and the table. And the only thing I'm going to say, now this is made to come out. So this would, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment, similar to the other one has the same feature. You could take the seats and the tables out and put them outside. And that's great for if you have a little like, you know, cooking kind of setup. And I'll do that at the end with both of them. But this doesn't have flatness on the side. So that to me is something it's all right, but at the same time too, it doesn't have that sense of, you know, just being flat. You know, I think that makes it look better, which the other one has. And I think that is a positive in the other one's way. And this one just makes it feel like all they can do is really sit, because it doesn't seem like practical for them to be on the sides or necessarily like that, but just sitting here sitting. This is also removable to come out too. So a lot more aspects of this, I would say, are removable to come outside of the camper van, where the other one, you have the campfire, but that's not meant to go in the van. So in that regards, you just have the table and chair is meant to come out of the other van, and that's it. This one's meant to take out both the table and chair, plus its little kind of food setup or arrangement. Now those are meant to be there on the table with it too, but like I said, you have the extras, which gives you even more, which is great. There goes the water bottle. There goes that is the coffee maker. There is a very simple build, but it works and it's fine. And then, like I said, this whole piece comes right off. And I'm going to demonstrate this after the fact, at the end, after we, take a look at both of these vans, but that this whole piece comes out. But it's pretty much kind of, beverage center or whatever the case is for your coffee. You got your little drink. Now, like I said, the cooking, this one doesn't have an internal cooking area, but that's why it has the propane tank that you will cook outside. And so that pretty much is what you get with this one for its inside interior or whatnot. Now this one, starting with the front area, and let me zoom in on that really quick. Like I said, the window space here is a lot smaller to climb through because you have a full accessory lineup there. Now this one doesn't do the cooking outside, it'll do the cooking inside. That right there is a hot plate, little stove setup, or like I said, just hot plate where you would lay something on top and it heats up. In that case, you have the coffee kettle or coffee pot, and one, I think it's a really nice design there, but you're doing coffee the old school way, as opposed to in the other camper van, you're doing it like with the coffee maker and drips it into the coffee machine. Into the mug. So it's a little bit different setup. This one actually has a full working sink, which, like I said, which I show in the let me just show it now, actually, in the review about how you have a hot and cold water system right there. So that goes hand in hand with that you have a faucet setup. And so that's pretty cool there. There goes the baby bottle that they plug in on the side there in the build. That's where you're supposed to put it. And so this has a full inside kitchenette kind of setup, as opposed to you having more of camper accessories like a propane tank. This is more like an accessory that you would bring along with you, as opposed to being integrated into the RV. So that's the two differences when it comes to the cooking aspect of it. Like I said, one thing that's lacking on here is that you don't have any kind of food really accessories. But one thing I want to show you here, that if you had, I'm going to take the egg out because I don't want it to fall while it's in the camper van. But if you had an extra pan, you could just put it on there and then throw the egg inside, and now it's cooking. So that gives a whole nother dynamic to knowing that this is like a universal hot plate used for those things. Unfortunately, this one didn't come with any food accessories, and it also doesn't have extra storage like I showed you the other camper van had. So even if you had those things, you wouldn't have a place to put them. Now, another thing too is, like I just mentioned, let me just put this piece back on the propane tank with the egg, and we're gonna put this one back, our little coffee pot. Now, as I mentioned already, that space there is, you know, clogged up for that, but it has its own separate entry. And there you go right there with the little steps, and you would walk up. So that's nice. Its own separate doorway for you to just, you know, come walk in, so you don't have to come in from those other areas. And that to me is a positive, and it's definitely more, like I said, I don't want to say it's more realistic, because the other one, you know, other setups can have that, but it's more practical. It definitely is more practical. Here is the seat setup on this one with the chairs. And so it's a nice setup, no different than the other one for the most part. This one, you can't put anything on the table, but it is a slightly, excuse me, nicer looking table. And like I said, we're gonna remove, excuse me, hiccups. We're gonna remove all these things later, along with all the things with the other camper, to see how everything looks when it comes out of it. This one actually incorporates a sliding door for a toilet, and that to me is really amazing. One thing to note, like I said, this is a wider cabin area, trailer area, I'm sorry. There's a wider trailer area, so this one can accommodate a lot more things because it's 8 studs wide as opposed to 6. But one, you have the flat floor, like I said before, where the other one doesn't really have that, so that feels a little more like how it should be, I think. And I'm sure you could flatten the other one out to make it all leveled, but nonetheless, that'd be extra pieces. This one, like I said, has the toilet, so it just feels very complete in that aspect. And I'm not saying every camper has to have a toilet, because if anyone is ever familiar with those custom vans, I think I don't know if they're called box vans, but those custom vans, like the economy line, or it's eco line or whatever, I think Chevy used to make them, this and that. They weren't officially, like, you wouldn't see them on a website, even though this is predating websites, but you won't see them on a catalog. But they'd be custom vans where you take a regular van that would sit normally like a bunch of seats, and you would like rows, and then they would gut it out. They'll put like the back seats that fold out into a bed, and you know, you'd have those kind of setups. So if you're familiar with the ones I'm talking about, they have the tire on the back, and then they would have a ladder on the back to climb to the roof and stuff like that. Those type of vans never had power in them. They weren't RVs, but they're almost like a smaller version of RVs. And in a way, you could almost look at the previous camper like that. And if you did, then it would make more sense. Those same type of little vans, which were, you know, no bigger than, say, like a large SUV or something of that sort. If you know the vans I'm talking about, those type of vans, sometimes they use them as little bus transports, whatever the case is. Those type of vans would have the front row of seats, a little table in between to the next row of seats, which were captain seats. Then you'd have another little table sometimes, if they had it included in there. And then the back row would be like a couch type of seat that turned into a bed, folded out to a bed. I'm just mentioning that for the purpose of, I'm sorry for the rambling, that this could probably be seen more towards that type of van, which in proportions wouldn't get wider on the sides, because those vans were not extra wide like an RV. But they did have RV qualities. They didn't have a built-in septic system. They didn't have a built-in, you know, like where you could have a stove built in or nothing like that. None of that stuff was in it. You'd have to have all your kind of stuff added separately. So in a way, you could view this as that type of van. In that case, they're not even in the same type of class. And I think that's an easier way to mentally say why this would fit, because even though there are all types of RVs, that specific design that I'm talking about, this very much sits in that kind of way, in that frame. And those type would usually have like a slide door on the side. Now, obviously this doesn't have that, but that's how those type used to be. Sorry for the side point and rambling. So this one has the toilet in it. It also has bedding to accommodate both adults and the baby. So that's a nice touch with a TV on the side. And I already told you what was on the side panel on that side, and then on this side, you have just a battery pack to show you that that gives you power for the whole trailer. So with that, we are gonna now just kind of jump into pulling all the things out to have the outside setup. And so for this one, you have, like I said before, you have the chair set up, you have the fire pit kind of set up there. And so this one has, when you pull everything out of it, and this one just feels like it's more meant to just have everything out of it. Like you're not really meant to necessarily do all these things on the inside, even though you can, but it's definitely more things are accommodated for being removed. Let's see if I can get this out. This one always gives me trouble getting out. Sometimes I get it out easy, sometimes I don't. So this one was displayed even on the box in that way, where it's like you got the little setup here. So you got the little food setup with the little propane stove. You've got the your coffee stand setup that detaches with your little bottle of water. You have your little foods on the table. So this is definitely a lot more going on when you come outside versus this one when you're outside, which is just simply a place to sit down, play your guitar, eat your croissant, and you have the fire pit. The fire pit is definitely a nice touch, but like I said, it's not something that goes inside it. So like I said, it's just a comparison. It's not really a versus. I think they both have their strong points. They're a different class of van. This is more like a smaller RV or like one of those kind of smaller vans. This is definitely like a larger RV, very much on that level of just full functionality in terms of interior as well. Another side note too, I used to mention about how this van, if you purchase this and say if you wanted to build a little, either a coffee truck or even you want to build your own cafe and you wanted parts for it, this is a great buy to use as parts for a little cafe. And I actually did that before on the channel, a little cafe. I used some of the parts from this, not all the parts, but just some of the food stuff on it, but essentially from the other one that my kids had that they just tore apart. But just this build alone, you could take it, the parts, the windows, everything that could be utilized in it to make like either a cafe, or you could turn the whole thing into a food stand, get rid of the wheels. You could set up a flat base, even if you had to use this as a flat base because it's a flat panel here, build up the walls, build up a little open table thing where, you know, it's just open on the side, maybe like that. And you know, without this piece here, it's just open and you got a little counter space. But the point is, this seems great if you want to use it as an alternative build or pieces for like if you want a little cafe or a coffee stand or even a coffee shop. If you have extra pieces, you want to make a coffee shop. This to me, as an alternate build or using its pieces, is good for either a tiny home or it's good for you using the pieces into a regular home and utilizing it because you got the full bed set up. You can make a little bathroom setup. You got the stove, you got the sink. It really has everything you need for a regular house setup. And there's a lot of house setups that don't even come with all those things. So the fact that you have all that here, even if you needed more stuff to use than just this in terms of building up actual full little house structure, this will have all the pieces in it to accommodate the inside of the house structure, including the table and seats, which is great. In addition, if you want to turn this into a tiny house and you got rid of the wheels and you just want to make a little tiny house, I think you could probably do that without even adding too much more to this setup and just making it a tiny house. So those are two concepts for alternative builds or what you would use the parts for. But with that being said, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.